両親、親族、仲間。それは人間が弱い関係をつなぐために作った言葉。言うには言えない。捕まえた。もし嫌なやつが来たら殺しちゃっていい？
やっと俺様の出番かよ。任せやな。最強のふさわしい俺様の勇姿、その上に焼き付きやがれ。これが最強だ。次も俺様にしっかり奉仕しろよ。
Hello everyone, we are back. And this time the patch we're talking about is actually a pretty significant one because it actually marks the end of the second act story of Wikigrisser. But I suppose we can save talking about that a little bit more for later. I think the immediate thing more people are interested in are the two new characters. And this time we're going to be talking about Epsilon and Mew. And of course, as always with these new Chinese patches, we are joined with a guest. This time we have Lukcid Crossli, fresh off his victory in Season 6 of Global Apex. Thanks for joining us today, Lukcid.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I'm clapping.
Yay.
So of course, Lukcid has now become E-famous among the Wikigrisser community since he has become one of our elusive champions. Do you want to say anything about that before we start talking about this patch?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, after I won Season 6, so many people congratulated me, so I was very thankful for that. And, you know, this game has been out for over 2 years. And for the fact that I was able to actually achieve something actually felt great. And I feel like the global server as a community can grow and be able to enjoy with each other in the future.
Alright, cool. So Lukcid, this is actually a question just from myself. You don't have to answer if you aren't comfortable answering it. I was wondering where you're from, because I've actually gotten a couple of conflicting answers for it before. Because we have players from all over the world on Global, so I guess I was just curious.
Oh, I'm actually from Korea.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but I live in California right now.
Okay.
So I'm a Korean, but also kind of semi-American.
If you came to America and you have American citizenship or you're a naturalized citizen, that's called being American. So
Being American, that's what it is.
Because I remember being told in the past that you were from Korea, but then you told me you were in California, so I wasn't sure. I don't know if I was getting incorrect information or something.
Oh, no, you got the correct information. I mean, I don't know if it's like TMI or anything, but I don't really have a citizenship. I'm actually just working here for now, but...
Workers, okay.
Yeah, but I've been here for over 10 years, so...
Okay, cool.
Well, you definitely could then.
Yeah, so I'm like, I swing both ways.
Fair enough.
No, it's not TMI for me, but it's, some people are uncomfortable putting out, personal information.
Right,
so...
I mean, this level of information I'm okay with.
All right. Well, so Lukcid, are you the type of person to look to the future for characters, or do you just like kind of look at characters as they come to the global server?
Oh, I actually look into the future quite a bit.
Okay, so you actually do plan out your polls and like how you're going to structure your box and things like that?
Yeah, of course. That's one of the biggest advantage we have by having the Chinese server, ahead of us.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have like 40,000 crystals ready for other stuff.
Oh, wow.
I'm a hoarder.
All right, so before we get into, I guess, the details of these characters, do you have any like overall impressions first?
Overall impressions. Okay, I'll make it short. I think they're both great characters. I'm not trying to, belittle them by any means, but as of right now, I don't think they are gonna fit into the main meta, so-called. But depending on what characters come out in the future, obviously, Epsilon, especially being a faction buffer, he's got a lot of potential. That's where I see them right now.
Okay, so I guess with that, I guess we can start by talking about Epsilon. And of course, like you said, Epsilon is the second Meteor Strike buffer. I guess long awaited for quite a few players.
Yeah, a lot of people were wanting this second faction buffer for the Meteor.
Yeah, I think Meteor Strike faction has kind of fallen out of favor. It was very popular in Season 1, where Zerida was incredibly powerful, but she's been kind of losing power slowly over time. I think Zerida is still seen in a couple boxes, but some people actually think she's not that good anymore.
Right, the fact that she needs every other turn to buff herself up to be able to kill something, that really kills her momentum, I think.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are pulling her out, and in conjunction with that, a lot of people in Chinese server, if I remember correctly, are pulling Juggler out also, which were, two biggest factors for the Meteor faction, Juggler and Zerida, but users are starting to pull them off. So it feels like Meteor faction itself in general is kind of at the bottom tier, to say the least.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
If they're taking out Juggler, who is like a really good tank, who are they replacing him with?
So, as far as I know, at the start of Season 8, a lot of people were experimenting with Albedo, along with Hilda. But now, I think more people are using Land Use and Hilda.
Yeah, Land Use.
And using Juggler as more like a bruiser, kind of a disruptor, instead of an actual tank.
Yeah, because it's Master of Ice skill.
Right.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I think Juggler as a tank, I mean, even now on the global server, I don't know if anybody really plays him as a quote-unquote real tank anymore.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, because anytime I use him, I actually think of him more as a DPS now, like a really bulky DPS rather than as a tank, because anytime I try to use him as a tank, he is really bad at it.
Right. I feel the same. So that's why I'm using Juggler as like a disruptor rather than an actual tank. It feels so unsafe if I have Juggler as my main tank.
Yeah. Every time I try to tank with him, it's like he's, you just gotta cherry tap him, make him lose 1 HP, and then the rest of his life bar just goes away from the next attack.
He just pops like a balloon.
Yeah.
Deleted.
Okay, so Epsilon, yes, but he's very interesting. He's a very strange characters because he is actually a one-range character, so he gets a demon and an infantry class, and both of these are one-range classes. So he's an assassin that's not an assassin, kind of like Shalinka in that sense, but he's also a little bit like Sigma. He's a little bit like even like Tsubame as well. He has a couple like hodgepodge abilities from all over different assassins, all placed into one character. I gotta say, like, when I first looked at him, I was a little bit puzzled because his kit looks strangely underpowered compared to some of the crazy characters they've been putting out. I do think maybe that's possibly because he's a faction buffer. They try to not make faction buffers themselves too powerful. Like I said, he is a one-range character, but he has ranged attacks, and his talent allows him to launch the soldiers alongside him. So he basically turns all his soldiers into cyborgs, which is strange because they also gave him cyborgs, so that's kind of redundant. I guess I'll start by talking about that. Like, his soldier choice, I actually don't really like. That's one of the first things I noticed about them, is that he has kind of mediocre soldier choices, in my opinion. He has, like, heavy infantries, he has berserkers, which is the berserkers are the bamboozle soldier, where a bunch of people invested into them early game and then they regretted it. He has like vampire bats, he has gargoyles, he has samurais. Basically, what I'm saying here is that he doesn't have a lot of like super offensive troops. What do you think of that?
Oh, I definitely agree with that. Epsilon, I think, is a character that has lots of pros, but also lots of cons. And the soldier choice is definitely one of the weaknesses that he has. If you look at the soldier pools, it's like heavy infantry, berserker. I mean, berserker is actually great offensively, but if you look at his classes, he's actually kind of forced to play as an infantry. And if you have to play infantry combo, that already is kind of a bad decision and bad kill potentials against any cavalry units that you're going to encounter. So that said, infantry soldiers are kind of out of the picture. And what was the cyborg? Yeah, cyborg is also infantry. And if you look at other soldier choices, it's just gargoyle, Duolahan. They're not very offensive. So it really comes down to whether he can kill units effectively as an assassin archetype.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard some people maybe they would run him as demon, but as I understand it, there's like a lot of holy characters coming into the meta.
Oh yeah, right now there are so many holy characters. I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so even his skill kit is kind of weird to me. So aside from the fact that they gave him a bunch of, I guess I would call them filler skills like air slash and stuff. Like I think those are mostly just to make him like usable in PvE. So first I said that he's a little bit like Tsubame, and when I said that because he has a 1C skill that says he can hide himself like Tsubame from a 1C skill.
Right. I think that's actually one of the best skills that he has, the one cost passive.
It allows him to approach the enemy, right? Like so he can just like he can kind of run in and into the danger zone and not be too scared. He's scared of AoEs, of course, in that situation, but you can let your opponent have, you can let them have like Elwyn and stuff, and he wouldn't be scared of just running in and just being ganked immediately.
Yeah. So from what I see is that the hide from the one cost passive is actually pretty good, because there are other effects on that one cost passive. And as for the range, he actually has the skill range +2 and mobility +2 when he has the faction buff in his talent. So if you're using the infantry form with boots, his effective range is 8 with his 3C.
Okay.
So it all comes really down to whether he can effectively kill the units that people are going to be using or not. Because we've already seen Shalinka, we've already seen other assassins having problem killing units because units are either have revives or can actually stay far enough back and doesn't care about assassins, or be sturdy enough to endure assassins' attack. And strangely enough, when there's Hilda and other things that are negating crits so much in China right now, in Chinese server, his talent is still reliant on crit rate and crit damage. So I think it's gonna be one of those characters that's gonna have harder time killing things, even though he has a kit to approach enemies and then, be able to faction buff.
Yeah, I think if you play an assassin box, Hilda is basically a must ban. You really don't have any choice in that matter. I mean, you could just hit Hilda and disable her crit disable, I guess, but that's usually too many steps.
Right, it's an added stress to people who are using assassins and trying to pick off a unit, right?
Yeah. I do and like you said, people are kind of putting Landius back in as well because there's a couple new good legend characters coming out. So now you have to deal with both Hilda and Landius at the same time. You ban Hilda, you're gonna have to deal with Landius. So that crit reduction aura and the range damage reduction aura are both a lot of trouble for assassins. The one thing I will say is that for Landius, Epsilon's faction buff actually does say that he increases the target's chance of being critted. This isn't an increased critical chance, but rather reducing your enemy's critical evasion, which is slightly different because I believe this actually affects things like the critical evasion mastery stone, and it can affect the Landius aura as well.
What it actually allows is that, there's a hard cap for the crit rate at 100.
Right.
You just cannot go over it, even though you can, number-wise, you can actually do that on characters like Zerida, but it doesn't go over 100.
Yeah.
And then when there's like a Landius, or we use the AB runes that reduce crit rate, it's reduced from 100. But by having this faction buff being a debuff to a crit rate to an enemy, your actual crit rate can go up to 112%. So that's, obviously something against all these crit negations, but it still doesn't negate the fact that Hilda has, no crit every turn and stuff like that. So
for those, Lukcid already said it, but I guess for those of you who aren't familiar with the details of some of the mechanics of the game, you are capped at 100% crit rate, and the subtraction from crit stones and Landius aura is after that. So the faction buff from Epsilon can help bring it back up after it's been reduced by those crit reduction. This is also true for things like the faceless assassins. Unfortunately, they didn't give faceless assassins to Epsilon, which I think kind of sucks.
Yeah.
You mentioned his 3C real quick, but I want to say real quick, like he has 3 guard pure skills, but his 3C is the only one that I think is actually usable, because the other 2 guard pure skills they gave him are just like, they just have huge downsides that I don't understand. Oh, well, okay, I do understand why one of them is the way it is. So first he actually has a 1C guard pure skill, which is very unique. But this one actually does less damage for every blocking moves. So assassins already have some trouble killing things, and this skill is going to have even more trouble killing things. But it is a 1C, so I guess it's kind of interesting that he can bring another Guard Pierce as a 1C. Maybe you can use it to I think the function of this is to I guess finish off some squishy unit.
Maybe the developers were thinking that because his factions are actually pretty decent, like you say, Landius is actually back in meta, so he's in Yellis. He has his own faction buff, but he can also get it from Zerida if people are still using Zerida. And he's also in Dark Faction, which is very easy to provide faction buffs right now because Bozel got 3C, Licorice got the unique equipment, so it's really easy. So what they were probably thinking was that if Epsilon can be deployed with the 3C, 1 cost passive, and another guard ignore skill, that he might be a little bit too overwhelming. That's why they made or designed the character the way it is right now, which makes sense. But at the same time, it kind of negates the benefit of actually receiving the faction buff as Epsilon.
So I guess the other thing is that he has another 2C Guard Pierce, which I don't know if you would bring most of the time because Epsilon is the faction buffer. So, I mean, if you put Epsilon in your box, I imagine you would mostly use him as a faction buffer. So I think most of the time you wouldn't use this Shadow Slash skill, this 2C Guard Pierce he has, which is another very strange Guard Pierce skill because this one 1.4 times damage, but it only ignores guard if you don't move.
So that's very weird.
Yeah, so, which is very unintuitive because you don't usually when you think of assassins, there are people who zoom across the map and then guard pierce someone, but it's like this one's like, yeah, stand still.
Let me just walk up to my target and then attack the next turn.
I don't think I totally understand the logic of this one, but I guess is it? Are you meant to use it with his hiding skill? But I don't know.
I mean, this also goes in hand with what I just said. I mean, if they gave him another, regular guard ignore skill, then he might be too overwhelming if he receives a buff from someone else.
Yeah.
So that's why his 2 coast skills are actually very weird.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really use them, right? Yeah. Because you're an assassin. Like, what are the chances of you trying to ignore guard without moving? That just sounds like really, really weird setup in a gameplay.
It would be in a slow tank push slap fight, which I don't think ever happens anymore.
Yep, not anymore.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say about this guy. Yeah, he's a very strange kit, but overall he's
he is Lord.
Yeah, aside from some of the weird quirks, he's mostly a straightforward assassin. I feel like. Do you have anything else you want to add here, Lukcid?
Yeah, I mean, I actually said a lot of weaknesses, and I really focused on his weaknesses, but I want to take a look at his attack, actually. Okay. It's actually 570, so it's a decent amount for an assassin. So yeah. I'm not trying to say that he's going to be really bad, but what we have to look out for is when he comes out, we'll have to test him. Because there are only so much information we can get from the Chinese server because we're not actually on the server playing and using these characters. So what we really have to look into is that what he can kill, what are his kill potentials when it comes out. And if he can kill things, I think he's going to be a great character. But if he has problem killing things, then he's going to be a really awkward faction buffer.
When I looked at his the 600 attack on the demon, which... like we said, Demon probably isn't something you run, but I guess the first thing I thought of was Sigma. Sigma has 600 attack. Although Sigma doesn't rely on crits, and that's why I think Sigma is still one of the few assassins that still has some success, because he isn't super reliant on crits.
Right, and he has a very long range too.
Yeah. So, Frontier, you want to add anything here?
He's an edgelord. That's about it.
Okay. His attack animation, he actually uses those floaty swords around him to he just shoots them at his enemies, so basically he's like a Gundam.
Oh no, it's a new type.
He shoots out the little the little pod things that attack your opponent.
I know Gundam lore.
Okay, so some people, I've also heard this rumor. Or not rumor, but some people have been theorizing that he's actually Ricky from Wikigrisser 4.
Oh no!
I mean, they do look alike, especially the hairstyle. Okay.
I'm just putting that out. I'm just putting that out there if you guys want to go wild with that theory.
So it must be confirmed.
I cannot confirm nor deny if that's true.
The CIA.
Okay. The next character I think is a little bit more interesting, and I guess a little bit more long awaited because she's been a character in the story for a while. It is Moo.
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 Moo. Moo. Moo. Moo.
Moo. Moo.
So this character, when I first translated it, I actually translated it as Jasmine, and that's because in the actual game on Global, that's what they were calling her in the story. So just to explain why they called her Jasmine, because that's actually kind of a localization error. The character they use for Moo's name in Chinese is literally translated as Jasmine the plant. So, but what it is actually like the character they use is read as Mu in Chinese. So it's wordplay basically. So the character they used for her name in Chinese isn't the character you typically use for the Greek letter mu, but they decided it's like I said, wordplay. It's the name of a plant and it has the same sound as the name mu, so that's why they called her that.
That's good.
So
That's a good joke.
So it was impossible to translate it properly into English. So when they first localized her name, they put Jasmine, which was kind of weird because it doesn't preserve the idea that she's actually one of the Gizarov experiments, who all have like code names based off Greek letters. But the most recent patch, I believe, on Global, they actually started calling her Mu, but they didn't go back and change the text from the previous missions, which called her Jasmine. So now it's just confusing. That
was Mu along.
Yeah. So as far as I know, like when they bring the character over, they are actually going to call her Mu, and they're not going to call her Jasmine anymore. So
That'd be a bit weird.
Yeah. So that's just it for the strange translation we have in the global server. But anyway, so I guess we can talk about the unit now. Mu is a very strange support character. She's like I don't know how to sum her up in a very simple way, but I guess she is a very grasslands and forest focused character, which probably is kind of obvious, because that's like the whole theme of her character. She's nature based, and she has all these effects that have to do with having your character stand on grasslands and forests, and she can create grasslands and forests. So her talent says it's actually a map-wide buff to all of your team that says that increases everybody's attack and intelligence by up to 15% as long as they're standing on grass or forest. And it also heals them if they end their turn on grass or forest. It also makes it so that your opponent, if they end their turn on a grass or forest, they actually get one random debuff. And again, this is map-wide, so you don't actually have to be near your opponent or have to do anything to get these debuffs. Now, I do feel the need to point out that these debuffs are not you're not going to get a heal block from her, okay? It's don't be scared of that. But they are pretty annoying debuffs. It's the Almeida pool. It's the attack, defense, magic defense, damage taken, and damage dealt debuff pool. So, I mean, getting these when you're all the way across the map, I mean, people already... I mean, Season 7 is here on Global, and a lot of you have played against Kruger already, so a lot of you know how annoying it is when someone can debuff you from all the way across the map while they're standing there in safety. So yeah, that's her talent. She just gives a map-wide command attack buff as long as you're on a grassland or forest. Do you have any comments on that first, Lukcid?
Yeah, I mean, you've basically covered a lot of things that I want to talk about Mew, but she's definitely grass and forest tile reliant. But that also means that depending on the map, she can be very good support and be very non-factor supporting role. Yeah. So I think she's a great character that a lot of people are going to be using her in the side box, like a lot of people are using Alustrial, for example.
Yeah.
And then just use them if the map is favoring her.
Yeah. Just like Alustrial, she is very map reliant. If you get the desert map, if you get the cave map, If you get the ice map, I don't think those are particularly friendly to her.
Exactly.
I have played one game on the Chinese server against her, and it was on the lake map, and she just like teleported ring next to my team, and I died.
Yikes.
Oh no!
Yeah. So like that was a good lesson in how crazy she can be on those types of maps. So her skill kit, like I said, she is a grassland and forest focused character. So first of all, she has a teleport that can teleport an ally to any grassland or forest tile on the map. And this is this is map wide. The targeting for the skill is only 3 range or 4 range if you bring one of her passives, but you can teleport that unit to anywhere on the map as long as it's a grass or forest tile, which you could just imagine how crazy that can be on certain maps.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of map pressure.
Yeah. So she also has a 1 cost passive, which I think this one is probably going to be the 1 cost that she brings most of the time, and is a skill that says, first of all, it reduces the damage she takes if she's on a forest or grasslands. She gets skill range +1, and then she heals people around her when they end their turn, or when she ends her turn rather. She becomes something of a minor healer, and she becomes a little bit tanky. You can't kill her as easily. The skill range +1, of course, also applies to her assist skill, so her teleport becomes a 4 range.
Yeah, and if you look at the cost, it says it makes her damage taken -20%, right? If she's on a grassland or forest, right?
Yeah.
And if you add that with the holy bow, is that what it's called? The passive from the mage and the holy tech?
The holy light protection.
Oh, is it holy light protection?
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing, the damage reduction at 100% life.
Yeah, 30% damage reduction.
Yeah.
So if she uses a mortal light and be able to keep 100% HP from any sort of a fixed damage that comes before the battle, then she's gonna have 50% damage reduction. And I think that's gonna be a very strong as a supporting role, because she's gonna be hard to remove. So she can even position forward and then not really worry about some of the characters that are assassinating in current Chinese meta, like Kayura. I mean, she's falling off a little bit, but she's still a great assassin. She's gonna survive Kayura just fine. And there are not a lot of things that's gonna be able to kill her and then remove her from being annoying. So I think that 1 cost passive is really, really strong.
Yeah, I think I've also seen people run the wolf archers on her, the elven cavalry archers, which have magic damage taken reduction. Yeah, and that synergizes really well with this as well. She just becomes very tanky against magic. So the rest of her kit, they just gave her a bunch of single target attack skills and some AoEs. I don't think she's going to be a very impressive attacker because she doesn't have any damage bonus in her talent. She does get the attack bonus from herself, but otherwise, she doesn't have her intelligence is decent, but no damage bonus, no intelligence bonus from the talents, I don't think there's anything particularly offensive about her. She does have 30% attack bonus on the soldiers, and she has sorceresses, which are always good. So I think she can do moderate damage, but I don't think she's going to be a very strong attacker.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because we already know by now that if the character doesn't have a built-in damage dealt and only has an int, that's usually not enough to either tank bust or do a significant amount of damage. It's going to be a good damage, but it's not going to be, piercing through a lot of things.
Yeah. So because of that, I actually think her 3 cost is an attack skill, which has a couple extra effects we'll talk about in a second. But I think because of her kind of middling attack power, I do think there's going to be situations where you actually don't bring her 3 cost at all, and you would just bring a bunch of assist skills. Do you think that's going to be a thing?
I do think her 3C, especially because her 3C has that 20% damage taken debuff applying to the enemy before you attack, it's gonna be a good skill, but not necessarily a must-have. Like you said, she might run 2-2-2 setup instead of having to take the 3 cost skill all the time, because I think her biggest power comes from that forest teleport in certain maps. So that one is just staple skill that you're gonna take no matter what. And the other skills you'll have to juggle between 1 cost passive and the 3 cost ultimate versus just two cost skills.
But I guess the alternative to bringing her 3C would be to possibly even bring like the other 1C that makes the grasslands around her. That's one choice. And I guess you could also bring AoEs on her if you're playing an AoE strategy to let her pitch in there. But yeah, the 3C is a bit odd. It is a 1.6 times damage attack, inflicts some debuffs, and the most unique debuff is that it actually, so it causes the enemy to get a debuff that can't be dispelled for 2 turns, and it says like if this unit dies, it will become a Dryad summon. So what it does essentially is that if Mu attacks someone with this skill and then they die, and Mu doesn't have to kill them herself. You know, you can have Mu put the debuff on and then somebody else kills that unit. But what it does is that it turns that unit into a summon for Mu. And the summon is actually like not particularly strong. I think it has about 8,000 HP. It's one of those it's one of the forest treant lancers. It has a guard skill that puts it in forest, and it has it actually has a revive if it's on grassland or forest. So basically what it does is that it creates a throwaway guarding unit for Mu
nice.
if you successfully kill that unit. I do think like that can be a game changer if you take out an enemy unit and then now you just have like a unit that could take 2 hits for free. Against a single target team, that's actually very, very annoying.
Yeah, against a single target team, having that additional tank that just pop up from your unit's dying, and then being able to take 2 hits, I think that's gonna be very powerful. On specific maps, I think she's gonna be very good. And aside from PvP, if you think about, joint battles, I don't know if a lot of people care about them at this point, okay. But like especially the Thursdays and the Friday ones where we have the guard Angelina, you can basically teleport your tank right off to the Illustrial and then have the fight start. So I think that's actually one of the few cool things that she can do.
Okay.
Yeah. I think she's going to be the more sought after one out of the 2.
You can also use her to immediately win at the map events for money.
Yeah, you can instantly teleport your units right next to the chest.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
So,
I might get her then.
it saves you an extra step because usually you would have to teleport twice for certain ones. So now you get to save pull for this gacha character just to save that one extra move.
Always an added value.
Hey, yeah. Frontier, anything you want to say here?
I like her a lot. She's definitely going to be a support character. Now you have to watch out for Lustrel and Mew on grassland tiles. So grassland tiles is going to be terrifying.
I mean, if you let your opponent have both Mew and Illustrial on a grasslands map, you kind of deserve to lose.
Yeah.
Or you deserve to lose a unit, that's for sure.
Yep.
I guess overall, Lukcid, do you think... I would say this is like a good banner, but not a must-pull banner like some of the previous banners have been. What do you think?
If you strictly look at their, power being these units being overpowered and whatnot, I don't think they're that level, but they're definitely interesting units, and I always value faction buffers because things can change with the upcoming new units. So I think it's like you said, it's a good banner, it's good units to have, but probably not a must-have at the current given moment in Chinese meta.
Okay. I guess worth noting is that their bonds are actually not too bad. So Epsilon uses Gizaroff and Omega. Gizaroff, like I think quite a few people do keep Gizaroff around because he's a faction buffer. Or at the very least they have him in their barracks somewhere. Omega, I guess some people might not have him, but if you pull for Yulia way back when she came out, you probably got an off-banner Omega to spook you. And Omega's been on a couple Destiny banners, I think. And Mu's bonds aren't too bad either. Gizaroff and Lambda. That one banner where they run Gizaroff, Sigma, and Lambda actually gets rerun pretty often. So there's a couple of opportunities to get Lambda. And again, Gizaroff is a unit I think a lot of people have. So I do think, unlike some of the Tensei characters, or like some of the weird characters that require some really obscure characters that people didn't pull for. Like for example, a lot of people are having trouble with Kruger because they don't have Shalinka. But for Mu and Epsilon, I think both of these have bonds that are mostly accessible to longtime players.
Compared to Tensei units, I obviously think that their bonds are a lot better.
Yeah. I guess we can talk about the 3Cs now. We will save the Dark Prince for last, because I think that's the one we're going to have the most to say about.
Got a lot to say about that.
So we can start with Silverwolf, which I don't have a lot to say about, because this is like kind of embarrassing. I kind of feel like they just don't really try with some of these SR 3Cs. It's like you wait so long for them to add some 3Cs to these SR characters, and then they just kind of like, whatever, just give them like another guard crew skill, I guess. That's kind of what it feels like.
And the weird thing about Silverwolf is that he gets a buff before entering battle that really doesn't affect the actual battle.
Yeah,
and I'm like, if you just want to go over what it actually does, and then we can talk about it.
Oh, I have it.
Okay.
I can read it. Okay, so physical damage, 3 cost, 3 cooldown, 2 range, a single span. Ignores guard and attacks a single unit, dealing 1.4 damage. Before entering battle, gains movement +1, skill plus 30%, and damage taken minus 20%. Last 2 turns, if a crit occurs, cooldown is -1 for the skill.
Yeah. So I think the reason it gave him some buffs that don't even matter is because they wanted him to be able to activate his helm, basically.
Yeah, and then just steal buffs, because that's what it actually does.
Yeah.
Because back in the days, like Season 1 and maybe early Season 2, I remember seeing Silverwolf every so often.
Yeah.
He was like, what was that character, the green hair guy? Oliver,
okay.
Yeah. He was like the Oliver in Season 5, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
Silverwolf would be like still buff, not necessarily kill and snipe units, but be this annoying unit that comes up to you and then survive damage, because he can stack quite substantial amount of damage taken buffs coming from, what was the skill, Ruthless? Yeah. So I remember him being used like that in earlier seasons, like Season 1 and Season 2. But in order for people to use it at this stage of the game, he really needed something a lot more than what his 3C actually can do.
Yeah, that's
how I feel like.
Yeah, that's why I said that. I feels like they don't really try with these 3C, because this 3C feels like a first batch 3C. You know, like this feels like one of the introductory 3Cs they would have shown to be like, this is our new feature. And at this point, it's just like, this is like a 2C skill, practically.
Oh yeah.
in terms of power. For those few people who are maybe waiting around and thinking, like, oh, they're saving Silverwolf, they're saving him because they have some kind of really strong idea in mind, and then it comes out as just like, no, they just didn't have an idea.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And Silverwolf isn't really even good for PvE, so that's unfortunate. But at least, I guess, at least you could say that Kirikaze's 3C is a little bit better for PvE. You know, like Kirikaze, for one thing, Kirikaze's 3C, for one thing, they actually gave it a passive portion, which they really should be putting on all of these SR 3Cs, I feel like. So, Kirikaze's 3C, passive portion says he takes less damage, he takes less physical damage in battle if he has higher skill. Usually you build Kirikaze with a decent amount of skill anyway, so he should be able to activate this pretty consistently in PvE at least. And then the attack portion is basically just a better air slash. If you use Kirikaze in Jormungandr, I think this is a okay skill to take in. Although one problem I have with it is that the physical damage taken is only in battle, and I think the biggest problem with Kirikaze dying in Jormungandr has to do with the AoE that Jormungandr does, and not really the single targets that he'll do. So this doesn't really help in that regard. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. What do you think?
I think you covered 100% of what I wanted to cover. Because Jormungandr, I mean, this skill is pretty straightforward. It was designed for the PvE purposes. Kirikaze was never designed for PvP. So, this passive, even taking 30% less damage when you actually enter battle, could come in handy in Jormungand. But like you said, his main problem from dying is not necessarily the battle damage, it's actually the AoE damage that comes out every turn. So even though it's like a good thing to have, but it's not like a must thing to have. So it's more like a PvE kind of a good tool to have, but not a must have.
I guess the one thing I will say is that if you run an assassin Kirikaze, you can give him last rites, and I think you can probably stack him to 100% damage reduction and have him survive the one single target attack from Jormungandr. I don't know if that's actually possible.
I want the memes.
Did he have a Ruthless? If he has Ruthless, he might be able to.
I don't believe he has Ruthless.
Oh,
no.
Unfortunate.
You would probably need to. I don't think you could. I guess last rites plus this passive. I don't think Miracle would be enough. Yeah, I guess I can't really think of another way to bump his damage taken up enough to get it to 100% against Jormungandr. But yeah, overall, slightly better than Silver Wolves because Kirikaze is actually used in PvE, but it's just okay, I guess. Alright, well, we got the SRs out of the way, so let's talk about Bozel's 3 cost. So
I have not seen.
Oh, okay, okay, so Frontier, why don't you go and read it right now? So Frontier has not read the Bozel 3 cost yet.
At all. Okay.
We're getting a live reaction from Frontier.
Okay, it's called Chaos Descends, 3 cost, 0 cooldown. Oh, I don't like that already. Span 5 tiles. Magic damage attacks enemy within 5 blocks of cell for 0.33 damage and deals 2 random debuffs. After the skill does damage, the next cast will have an additional 0.05 skill damage and will add 1 extra debuff, but the cooldown is increased by 1, max of 0.1 skill damage, plus 2 random debuffs and plus 2 cooldown. Oh god.
Yeah, it's
the spam.
It's a 0 cooldown black hole that is a self-target 5 range AoE. So once you cast it, you can cast it again immediately, and then after that, you only have to wait 1 turn before casting it again, and then it just gets stronger and stronger every single time you cast it. I don't know. I'm speechless. What do you think, Lukcid?
When it first came out, I actually thought it was kind of iffy because we weren't told about the cooldowns, how it was going to actually rotate.
Okay.
So my initial understanding was that after he uses this, he's gonna have to wait 1 turn and then use it the following turn, and then after that, it's gonna have to wait 2 turns. But when it came out and then people tested it, it was like back to back and then 1 turn. And when I saw that, I was like, is that even possible? What were they thinking when they were designing it? Because I'm not a huge fan of debuff meta.
Yeah.
And when I looked at this, I'm like, oh, what were they thinking? Are they trying to bring the debuff back again?
Did it ever really leave, honestly? Like, because like you only...
It never did. It
Yeah.
never did. But people are juggling between the single target debuff or like the balanced box, going left and right. But with this edition on Bozel, a lot of people are going back to more debuff focused, other than like single target and other things that are available, just because it's just so reliant right now.
Yeah, even if it had the 1 turn cooldown, I kind of feel like it wouldn't be that bad, because you could just because even if it had the 1 turn cooldown, you could just bring like the 3C and then bring like black hole plus seal.
You can bring double AoE, so you're gonna be able to do 3 AoEs without having to wait a single turn. If you can, get the faction buff from Sunmail.
It's actually 4 AoEs in a row without, because you cast Chaos Descends once, and then you cast Chaos Descends again, right? And then you cast Black Hole, and then you cast and then you cast Chaos Descends a 3rd time after the Black Hole.
So he's even worse than I just described.
Oh no.
This is absolutely crazy. So I mean, I understand, like, I kind of understand the logic, because Bozel was so reliant on the 3-2C setup, right? Usually it was faction buff plus black hole plus earthquake. So I guess they wanted to preserve his ability to bring the faction buff and cast 2 AoEs in a row in black hole and earthquake. So instead you cast Defense twice in a row. But I think this is really excessive because when you think about what changes you can make to Bozel using this skill, you can take Bozel off of clock enchant if you want to now.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest benefit he received from having this
you can
3C.
now give him 2 blues for that extra magic damage.
Yeah, 2 plus
Or
2
you can
blue.
even go breeze.
Yeah, you can do 2 plus 2 blue
Oh god.
for the big
Breeze
magic defense.
Bozel.
You can bring breeze. 10%. Like you don't get the extra magic defense, but 10% damage is really nice for Bozel because he doesn't have damage mods himself.
Right, and his intelligence is usually already high.
You could also give him magic, I just realized that, yeah.
Yep.
Magic is a choice, and you could even use some weird setups. Like I even thought like you could give him like Tree of Life, and get him like get its HP really high, and then now he's even harder to kill.
An option too.
I mean, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the Overlord banner, I'm like, I see how he won.
Moving off of clock, basically the thing you lose is the clocking sleep. Like you don't get the clock sleep anymore. I think most people don't rely on that happening, so I think most people will be comfortable moving him off of clock for this thing.
Yeah, because his skill set became a lot more versatile. Because instead of running sleep, he can also run this passive seal.
Yeah.
And that's just additional debuff count for him. It's gonna be very annoying to deal with. So he just received a lot of versatility, a lot of power, option to change his engines around. He doesn't really lose anything by taking the faction buff anymore. It was a huge, huge plus to Bozel. It's a lot better than what I theorycraft when I first read it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that Bozel gets a 3C like this when he was already one of the best characters in the game. I mean, people did start booting Bozel out, but I kind of felt like he was still really good. He was still a character where you can cast a black hole and GG the game. Like, it's like
I think from my standpoint, his biggest weakness was his mobility and his range.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have any skill that's gonna expand it to like 5 range.
Mhm.
He had to have a target in 3 block to initiate anything, and his base movement is 3 unless you use the SR boots.
Mm.
But now you can have breeze, so you can move up to 5, 3 base movement but up to 5, and then his 3C expands 5 blocks, so his range became from 6 to 10 effectively.
Mm.
I think that is the biggest change for Bozel.
that's a really
He
good
can
point.
he can reach enemies now without having to worry about getting initiated before.
Yeah, Zalon's still favoring Bozel a lot. he's been
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, it's a great thing, right? Because we all have access to Bozel.
Yeah,
And if
yeah.
Bozel's like really overpowered, everyone has access to it. Not a lot of people are gonna feel discrepancies. So
Everyone is super, no one is super.
all right. What does this max out at? Like, okay, so 4 debuffs from the 3C itself. You get 1 debuff from his talent. You get 1 debuff from his robe. You get 1 debuff from his staff. You get 1 debuff from Seal, I guess. So what is this, like 8 debuffs?
essentially, yeah.
So Lukcid, is this gonna convince you to use Bozel more?
Oh yeah, of course. I'm already preparing my breeze engines for.
All right. Watch out,
Nice.
everybody.
Breeze Bozel.
Okay, have fun with that. So, I guess we could talk about the exclusive equipment added. We got the exclusives for our 2 strategist characters. Wiler and Florentia got their exclusives. So first, I can talk about Wiler's exclusive. So, first of all, I want to address the name real quick. In Chinese, like the name of this item is closer to something like the Sea of Stars Admiral, but I translated it as the Galactic Admiral, and so I kind of played up the connection to the Legend of Galactic Heroes, and I feel comfortable doing this because it is clearly intended on the part of developers, because the flavor text for this piece of equipment actually is literally a quote from Legend of the Galactic Heroes. So it is very much
Nice.
So it is very much intentional that you're trying to invoke that. But anyway, this once again, they are creating a exclusive helm because again, they keep giving helms to everybody. They don't want people to use Tenyos anymore. This gives him immunity to fixed damage when he's below half health. Basically, it's to protect him from just instantly dying when he uses 3C. The only other thing I can think of is that maybe it protects him from Ares' second AoE. If you survive the second AoE and then he does the Scarlet Reaper tick, like, he won't take that damage. And then he has a 50% chance to lower his skill cooldowns by 2 when he uses a skill. So, the things I can think of is that he'll have regroup up immediately if it activates. He'll get tactical retreat down to 3 cooldown, which I don't know if that's actually useful. Seems kind of strong, but I don't really like that it's a coin flip. Like, I really hate coin flip chances in games like this, unless you can, like, layer it. Multiple layers of coin flip chances, but stuff like this where it's like 1 coin flip chance to get a skill to work again, I don't think I like it very much. But it's not saying that it's bad, but I just don't like it. What do you think, Lukcid?
So the effect, like you said, I think is pretty good. He gets a little bit more sustainability against Ares double AoE because he's immune to fixed damage that's coming after the second AoE. And that 50% chance of getting cool time -2. I mean, in theory, back-to-back regroup can be very strong. But like you said, I really don't like the coin flip. And the last thing you actually want to gamble with is with your healer, right? If you want to rely on that 50% chance proccing to make someone survive or not, that's not necessarily a good pick in the first place. So even though his unique equipment effect looks okay and kind of good and fits him, because his biggest problem was his cooldowns on his heal skills. He had such a long downtime after he's used all his fancy skills. But with this unique equipment, he has a chance of using the skills more often. But at the same time, is that really gonna be enough for him? Is a questionable attempt from the dev, in my opinion. Because I don't think that's actually strong enough to bring him back.
Yeah, I mean, well, for one thing, like, even if this activates on his 3C, it's not going to matter.
Not gonna matter.
Yeah, I guess it might be useful if you use it in his mass heal setup, like you bring mass heal plus dispel. Obviously, usually you can alternate between those two over and over, but if you get to... I guess you get like occasionally you'll get the mass heal twice in a row or something if you need the extra HP heal. I don't know if that's actually going to matter, but I guess it's an option.
So when we approach it like that, the problem we have is we have to really compare it to the other units that are available, right? At that point.
Yeah.
And at that point, we have Wikigrisser with unique equipment who can provide faction buff and has mass heal come up every turn 100%.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, and a Wiler being used with 50% chance to be able to mass heal back to back is very comparatively not good enough.
Yeah.
So also, like you said, Zilong realized that the Tenyos headdress was OP and broken, and they want to reduce the RNG as much as possible. So whenever they're coming out with the unique equipment for healers and mage classes, it's primarily headgear nowadays, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at this piece of item, unique equipment, and compare that to Tenyo, I honestly think I'm just gonna use Tenyo if I ever use Wiler again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a comparison that we really have to make when healer unique equipment comes out. Is it better than using Tenyo's headdress? And the answer to this is pretty much a no, in my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of feel like if you really wanted the fixed damage immune, I think you would probably just use a bracer on Wiler, and just because bracer is always good, fixed immune and silence immune.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not that these effects are bad. It's just that it seems to be replacing a slot that is very competitive, and the effects you get from it might be better obtained from other places. And even ignoring Tenyo's, like they added all those other good helms. You know, they added the Mortal Light helm, which can be okay on Wheeler. There's that one helm that has the fixed. It buffs your adjacent allies with fixed immune that came out recently. It came out like last month on China server. That is also an option over this one. So yeah, it's they need to if they want people to go off of Tenyo's, they need to do better than this, I think.
Yep.
I guess on that note, I guess we can take a look at Florentia's instead, which it's largely what I think people assumed her exclusive would be, which is just that it gives her more battle strategies for some situations. So she starts the battle with one extra battle strategy, and she gets another battle strategy when an ally dies. Starting the fight with 6 strategies can be nice. I guess it's a more even number, but it doesn't push her over any kind of threshold, because 5 was enough for her to do an act again, which is, I guess, the most important thing for her. Getting a battle strategy when an ally dies can be nice. It can maybe help you turn a game around if your units start dying, or maybe you can abuse it with summons or something. Yeah, that's all I can think of. I mean, it also has soldier damage taken minus 10% on it, which I don't understand. I guess it makes Florentia...
Did she really need that?
I mean, it makes her slightly tankier, but I've always felt like Florentia's like soldier tankiness is like really iffy, because she requires 100% life to maintain the extra stats on her soldiers. So if you want to do that, you basically need to run like a Bracer Florentia or a Medring Florentia, which most people don't do that, I don't think.
Actually, a lot of people that I know actually are using Bracer on Florentia because her survivability is really hard, and the threshold that she has to meet to survive areas is really steep. So a lot of people are going back to Bracer for that extra survivability. So with that soldier damage taken minus 10% can be useful, because she does have that extra 25% stat on her soldiers. So her soldiers, if you're using Bracer, is actually quite tanky. So I do want to give a point for that. But the other effects, getting another strategy point at the start of the battle and when an ally dies, I don't think that's going to be as game-changing as Tenyu can be. So going back to the same thing we talked about with Wiler unique equipment, if it's a headgear equipment, it's very competitive item slot. We have to compare this with Tenyo. There's Mortal Light. So many good things are out there, and then we really have to question: is this unique equipment better than what we have? Not to mention that if we want to use this, we have to re-enchant. That's also going to be a burden to some people.
Yes.
So for both Wiler and Florentia, I feel like their unique equipment, like effect itself, is pretty good. It's not bad. But if we change the perspective and then ask question, is this good enough to be replaced? Then the answer could be a no. That's how I see it.
All right.
Yeah, Tenyo's are just too good.
Tenyo's is good enough that you often see people in games, they're just sitting back and they're just like ending turn. They're just making their units end turn next to each other over and over, hoping to get a breeze.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I understand the dilemma from Zilong, because they already created Tenyo. They probably didn't expect the Tenyo to be this game-changing as the game progressed. But at the same time, they can't really provide unique equipment that's just way too OP and then replace Tenyo, because then that's going to cause another problem. So they have to come up with a solution that people are going to be choosing, unique equipment over Tenyos, but that balancing is going to be very hard for Zilong to do. So I understand their dilemma, but this at least shows that they're trying to fix the problem that they created. So that could be one positive notion that we can take from this.
I mean, they do get it right sometimes. The Liko helm, I think, is good enough to replace
Yes,
Tenyo's.
Liko helm was actually good enough, yes. I 100% agree.
Yeah. So, well, nice try, Zilong, but not good enough.
Yep, good job last time. Not good enough this time.
All right, so I guess I'll talk a little bit about the actual content they added with this patch. So first, as people probably have heard already, This is actually the patch where they added the final story chapters of the Part 2 story in the game. I won't spoil anything. The only thing I will say is that in terms of the treasures you can get, the free item they provided this time was Bloodline Magic Armor, which is very disappointing because the last few times they kept adding some pretty nice items. There was like a free, like the last few times there was like a free, miracle staff at one point. There was a free like range staff. There was like some other really good items in the past, like we got like Blood Pact before and Aeolus armor. So Bloodline this time is kind of like, what? It's like what?
What?
It's like
This is the final reward?
Yeah. It's kind of like, huh? How about giving us a free gift of eternal life or like a free balance blade? Some people still need one of those.
Twilight, please.
Oh, what was that?
Star.
Free Twilight, please.
Oh yes, free Twilight Star. Yes, get on it, Zalone. So they also have a Secret Realm event, which
Yes,
of
this
course they
one.
do.
I
Okay,
knew it.
So this Secret Realm event is actually based off the Hound of Baskerville. So once again, we are getting a Sherlock Holmes style Secret Realm event. And I know that last one we got, that starred Wheeler, was actually very popular with people. A lot of people really enjoyed it.
I did. I loved it.
Unfortunately, for those of you who are hoping that it's a sequel event, I don't believe it's actually a sequel. I actually couldn't tell you for sure because usually when I get info from the Chinese server, I just try to get the gameplay stuff. I don't really stop to read the flavor text that much. I usually tend to prefer to do that when the event comes to global and I can enjoy it at my own pace. So I guess we'll see when it comes.
Cool.
Aside from that, they added some random quality of life changes, and I want to mention these because so many of these are just things that people have been asking for them to do for the longest time. So I do think they're notable for that reason. So first of all, you can combine hammers now.
When I read about this hammer thing, it was a good QOL change if it came out 2 years ago. Remember back in the days when we were doing the World Arena? We couldn't even group we couldn't even click all the hammers at once like we can right now.
You can't mass sell them.
Yeah, we can click 99 hammers at once, right?
Yeah.
But back then, I remember individually clicking every single hammer when my item slot was maxed to remove and empty out a space from my bag. I remember that time. So this function would have been great to have back then. Not necessarily right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, as long kind of late to the party with the QOL changes.
Yeah, exactly. You're very late to the party.
I guess it's for those people who are running out of space, but somehow also need to keep their hammers around instead of turning it into gold. I'm sure they're out there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. It's always better to have something than nothing, but.
They also added a filter function to the alchemy page, which again, like, sure. I mean, why not? And they also added a new tag, like items that you've just gotten will actually have a new label on them when you go check your bag. I'll put a picture of it in the video, but like, yeah, it's again like it's just a nice thing to have. Like you said, if you got like some trash item that you're looking for, it'll be easier to spot it now.
Well, I think that feature is actually pretty good because if you think about it, some more people are actually getting done with the training, and I'm pretty sure in Chinese server, a lot of people are done with the training, and they don't really have to spend additional bread to run Aniki dungeons anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, people are going to be using the daily 20 auto function on dragons instead of Aniki dungeons. And when you do that, after you've run 20 times, you can just browse through the bag and then see what new items you actually got easily. So I think that's a positive change.
That's a good point.
Yep.
All right. So I guess the final quality life change is... oh my god, I'm so glad they finally added this. When you are in dialogue scenes, when you click the screen, instead of skipping the line immediately, it will display the whole line first, and then when you click the screen again, it will skip the line.
Oh.
That's nice, yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
This drove me so crazy when I was reading the story. I was just like, okay, I want to see the line, and then I click the screen and it goes away. I'm like, Why did you design it
Yeah,
this
there's
way,
no
Zalon?
dialogue option.
Every other game makes it so that when you click the screen, it will display the whole line first. So, yeah, only took you almost 3 years to make this change, but thanks, Stallone.
Much appreciated change.
All right, I'm done overreacting. I guess that's all we have today. Thanks so much for joining us today, Lukcid.
Yes, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for having me. It was such a great time.
Yeah. So right now, season 7 is going on the global server, and a lot of people are excited, shall we say, for that Sophia gold rank skin. So as one of our as one of our master Apex players, do you want to put out any advice out there for people who might be newer to Apex or maybe haven't reached gold rank before? What is your advice to them if they want to get that shiny skin for Sophia?
I guess my best advice is don't get discouraged just because you lose some matches. Just play through, watch some Apex videos out there. There are a lot of resources out there, and then just enjoy. Because at the end of the day, it's a game. You're playing this to enjoy it. You're not playing this to win it over the world or anything like that. So don't stress yourself too much, and then hopefully you're gonna get better as you play more.
Okay, cool, because I still haven't done it, and this is the season I'm actually starting to do stuff.
Yeah,
again.
because I actually do get DMs here and there saying that, I did X and X matches, but I don't want to do it anymore because there are so many, whales, so many strong players out there, and I don't want to lose. And what I tell them is, don't be afraid to lose. It's fine if you lose. It's not the end of the world. You are still gonna earn something from those losses in the games you play. So as long as you're actually intuitive about it, you don't really have to overstress about losing.
All right.
Yep.
All right. With those words of encouragement, get out there and get that Sophia skin.
Yeah, get out there and play, guys.
Unless you just really hate Apex, don't play games you don't enjoy, guys.
Oh yeah, of course.
Again, thank you so much for joining us, Lukcid. All right, and good luck to you on season 7. You're gonna try to aim for the gold again, right?
All right, I'll try.
I'm gonna try.
And of course, Frontier's joining the fray as well. Let's see how you do.
I'm just gonna spam AoEs and debuffs.
Spam Bozel.
Yep, spam
and,
Bozel.
in another 5 months, you can spam even more Bozel.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.